Marcus Chen wiped down the conference table in the executive boardroom of Stellar Tech, his cleaning cart squeaking slightly as he moved around the massive mahogany surface. It was 7 p.m. on a Friday, and the building was nearly empty except for the security guards and him. He didn't mind the solitude. After 23 years of cleaning offices, Marcus had learned to appreciate the quiet dignity of his work. While others saw trash bins and dusty corners, he saw the satisfaction of transforming chaos into order, of making spaces where people could thrive. He was humming softly to himself when he heard the laughter echoing from the break room down the hall. Marcus recognized those voices: Brad from marketing, Jessica from HR, and Kyle from sales. The cool kids of Stellar Tech, as they liked to think of themselves. They were young, ambitious, and often careless about who might overhear their conversations. "Come on, it'll be hilarious," Brad was saying as Marcus pushed his cart past the break room. "My cousin Rachel has been bugging me to set her up with someone. She's all about professional men and stable careers. Imagine her face when Marcus the janitor shows up." Marcus felt his hands tighten on the mop handle, but he kept walking. This wasn't the first time he'd been the butt of a joke, and it probably wouldn't be the last. "That's so mean," Jessica said. But she was laughing. What if she actually likes him? "Have you seen him? He's like 60 years old and he cleans toilets for a living," Kyle chimed in. "Rachel's an Instagram influencer. She'll take one look at him, realize it's a prank, and we'll all have a great story. Brad, you have to record it. I'll tell her I'm setting her up with a senior executive at Stellar Tech. Technically not a lie, he's definitely senior." Brad's laughter was cruel. "I'll book them a table at Marcello's for next Friday." "This is going to be gold." Marcus continued down the hallway, his heart heavy. He thought about saying something, about confronting them, but what was the point? They'd just deny it or laugh harder. At 54 years old, he'd learned that some battles weren't worth fighting. He had his daughter to think about. Carmen was finishing her last year of medical school at Stanford, and every extra shift he worked helped ensure she graduated debt-free. That was what mattered, not the casual cruelty of people who thought his work made him invisible. The following Friday, Marcus found himself doing something completely out of character, getting ready for a date. Not because he wanted to subject himself to humiliation, but because of what had happened 2 days after he'd overheard that conversation. He'd been cleaning the executive floor when CEO Victoria Reeves had emerged from her office earlier than usual. She was a formidable woman in her early 60s, known for building Stellar Tech from a small startup to a Fortune 500 company. Unlike many executives, she always greeted Marcus by name and asked about his daughter. "Marcus," she'd said that evening, her expression troubled. "Do you have a moment?" He'd followed her into her office, confused and slightly worried. She'd gestured for him to sit, something that had never happened in 23 years. "I need to tell you something, and I need to ask you to trust me," Victoria had begun. "I overheard Brad Collins and his friends planning a cruel prank involving you. Something about a blind date setup designed to humiliate both you and Brad's cousin." Marcus had nodded slowly. "I heard them too, ma'am. I'm appalled. This kind of behavior has no place in my company." Victoria's eyes had flashed with anger. "But here's what I'm proposing. I want you to go on that date, not to be humiliated, but to teach those arrogant children a lesson they'll never forget. Will you trust me?" Now, standing in his modest apartment in his one good suit, purchased years ago for Carmen's high school graduation, Marcus adjusted his tie and wondered what Victoria had planned. She'd assured him he wouldn't be embarrassed, that she had everything under control, but his stomach still churned with anxiety. Marcello's was the kind of restaurant where Marcus had only ever entered through the back delivery entrance during his early morning janitorial shifts at the strip mall where it was located. The hostess greeted him with barely concealed skepticism when he gave his name, but she led him to a table near the window where a young woman sat scrolling through her phone. Rachel was pretty in the way of people who worked hard at being pretty, perfectly styled blonde hair, carefully applied makeup, designer dress. She looked up as Marcus approached, and he watched her expression cycle through confusion, disappointment, and barely disguised horror. Hi?" she said, not standing. "I'm waiting for someone. There must be a mistake." "Rachel Collins?" Marcus asked gently. I'm Marcus. Your cousin Brad set us up. Her face flushed red. This is a joke, right? Where's Brad? Is he filming this? She looked around the restaurant frantically. Marcus sat down carefully. It's not a joke. Well, it was supposed to be. Brad thought it would be funny to set you up with the janitor from his office. He told his friends you'd be horrified. Rachel's mouth opened and closed. That little... She grabbed her purse. I am so sorry you got dragged into my cousin's idiotic prank. This is humiliating for both of us. I'm going to kill him. Wait, Marcus said quietly. Before you go, can I tell you something? Something in his voice made her pause. She sat back down slowly, her expression wary but curious. Your cousin thinks I'm a joke because I clean buildings for a living. He thinks my work makes me less than him, less than you. Less than human, maybe? Marcus met her eyes steadily. But here's what Brad doesn't know. I put myself through community college while working nights. I raised my daughter alone after my wife died of cancer when Carmen was 3 years old. I worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. I never missed one of Carmen's school plays or soccer games. I read to her every night, even when I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. Rachel had stopped fidgeting. She was listening now, really listening. Carmen is finishing medical school at Stanford. She's going to be a pediatric surgeon. She's brilliant and kind and everything good in this world, and I'm so proud of her I could burst. Marcus's voice grew thick with emotion. I clean offices because it has good benefits and steady hours, and it let me be there for my daughter when she needed me. I'm not ashamed of my work. I'm proud of it. I make spaces clean and safe for people. That matters. It does matter, Rachel said softly. Her eyes had filled with tears. I'm so sorry. About Brad, about everything. That's really beautiful. What you did for your daughter. The point is, Marcus continued, Brad wanted to humiliate both of us tonight. You for being shallow enough to care about status and careers. Me for being just a janitor. But maybe we both deserve better than being the punchline of someone else's mean-spirited joke. We definitely do, Rachel agreed. She looked at him thoughtfully. We're both here. Would you want to actually have dinner? I promise I'm not as terrible as my cousin. And honestly, you're already the most interesting date I've had in months. Marcus found himself smiling. I'd like that. They ordered food and Rachel surprised him. Behind the Instagram-perfect exterior was a woman who'd been a high school teacher before social media had accidentally become her career. She talked passionately about education reform and showed him videos of literacy programs she'd been funding with her influencer income. Everyone assumes influencers are vapid, she said with a rueful smile. But I make more money posting about skincare than I ever did teaching. So now I teach and I fund classroom libraries and I try to use whatever platform I have for something good. Brad thinks I'm frivolous, but he doesn't actually know me at all. Family can be like that sometimes, Marcus said. They see what they expect to see, not what's really there. They were laughing over dessert when Marcus noticed Brad, Jessica, and Kyle walking into the restaurant. Brad stopped dead when he saw them, his phone already out as if ready to record the disaster he'd anticipated. What happened next would become legend at Stellar Tech. Victoria Reeves walked in behind them, elegant in an evening gown with 2 security guards. The entire restaurant seemed to quiet as she approached Brad's group. Bradley Collins! Her voice cut through the ambient noise like a knife. I believe you and your friends have some explaining to do. Brad's face went pale. Ms. Reeves? What are you? I'm here because I learned that 3 of my employees thought it would be amusing to orchestrate a cruel prank involving one of Stellar Tech's most dedicated team members. Victoria's voice was ice. You conspired to humiliate Marcus Chen and your own cousin for entertainment. The restaurant had gone completely silent. Other diners watched with naked curiosity. It was just a joke, Kyle stammered. You didn't mean what? For anyone to find out? For there to be consequences? Victoria turned to address the room. Let me tell you about Marcus Chen, since these 3 clearly know nothing about the man they work beside. Marcus has been with Stellar Tech for 23 years. He's never missed a day of work. Never filed a complaint despite, I'm sure, overhearing countless disrespectful comments. He's raised a daughter who's about to become a doctor. And he does his job with a level of professionalism and dedication that puts most people to shame. She turned back to Brad, Jessica, and Kyle. You three, on the other hand, have shown yourselves to be cruel, classist, and lacking in basic human decency. Effective immediately, you're all on unpaid suspension pending a full review of your conduct. Consider yourselves lucky if you still have jobs by Monday. You can't fire us over a joke, Brad protested. I can fire you for creating a hostile work environment, for harassment, for behavior that violates every value this company supposedly stands for. Victoria's eyes were hard. You wanted to make someone feel small to make yourselves feel big. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. She walked over to Marcus and Rachel's table. Marcus, I'm sorry to interrupt your evening, but I wanted these three to understand exactly what kind of man they tried to diminish. Marcus stood, uncomfortable with the attention. Ms. Reeves, you didn't have to— Yes, I did. I'm tired of good people being treated as invisible because their work isn't flashy. I'm tired of people being judged by their job titles instead of their character. Victoria's voice softened. You've been the backbone of this company for over 2 decades. You deserve respect and you're going to get it. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and your dinner tonight is on me. Both of you, please enjoy your evening. The security guards escorted Brad, Jessica, and Kyle out. The restaurant buzzed with whispers. Rachel reached across the table and squeezed Marcus's hand. That was incredible. Your boss is incredible. She really is, Marcus agreed, still somewhat stunned. Can I tell you something? Rachel asked. I came here tonight expecting a successful executive type because I thought that's what I needed. Someone impressive on paper. But you know what? You're the most genuinely impressive person I've met in years, not because of your job or your title, but because of who you are as a human being. Over the next few months, something unexpected happened. Marcus and Rachel continued seeing each other. She met Carmen, who was home for spring break, and the two women bonded immediately. Rachel started volunteering at the literacy programs she funded, rediscovering her love of teaching. Marcus, encouraged by Victoria, enrolled in night classes to finish his bachelor's degree, something he'd always wanted to do. Brad was fired after the review revealed a pattern of bullying behavior toward service staff. Jessica and Kyle were given final warnings and mandatory sensitivity training. The incident sparked a company-wide initiative on respect and workplace dignity that became a model for other corporations. On the day of Carmen's medical school graduation, Marcus sat in the audience with Rachel beside him. When Carmen crossed the stage to receive her diploma, she caught her father's eye and mouthed, "Thank you, Dad." Marcus thought about the journey that had brought him here. The years of hard work, the sacrifices, the quiet dignity of doing work that others looked down upon. He thought about the cruelty of people who measured worth by job titles and bank accounts. And he thought about that dinner at Marcello's, the night that was supposed to humiliate him, but instead revealed the poverty of character in those who'd tried to diminish him. After the ceremony, Victoria Reeves approached them. She'd been invited by Carmen, who'd gotten to know her through Marcus's stories. Congratulations. Dr. Chen, Victoria said warmly. Thank you, Ms. Reeves, and thank you for what you did for my dad. He told me everything. Your father's character spoke for itself. I just made sure people were listening. Victoria turned to Marcus. I have something for you. She handed him an envelope. Inside was a promotion letter. Facilities director, a management position with a significant raise. You've been ready for this for years, Victoria said. I should have offered it sooner. But better late than never. Marcus felt his eyes sting with tears. I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept. Say you'll help me build a workplace culture where everyone from the C-suite to the facilities staff is treated with equal respect. I accept, Marcus said quietly. That evening, at Carmen's graduation dinner, Rachel raised her glass. To Marcus, the most honorable man I know, who taught me that real success isn't measured in followers or dollars or titles, but in the lives you touch and the people you lift up along the way. To Dad, Carmen added, her eyes shining, who showed me that hard work and dignity are never wasted, that being a good person matters more than being an important person. Marcus looked around the table at the people he loved, at the life he'd built through years of sacrifice and quiet perseverance. The janitor, who was supposed to be a punchline, had become something those cruel jokers could never understand. A man of substance, of honor, of genuine worth. And that was no joke at all. That was the truest kind of success.